The full episode of this podcast is available on Spotify and other podcast platforms. Click the link in the description to listen now.
Moving on, let's talk about India and the preparations ahead of the World Test Championship final against Australia, which is set to be played at the Oval in June. If I'm not wrong, it's the 9th of June. Well, I never remember dates. But yeah, the news coming from the Indian camp is quite a big thing to talk about, in my opinion at least. And it's the replacement of KL Rahul, the injured KL Rahul. Rahul had announced earlier on social media that he's undergoing a surgery and therefore had to pull out of the IPL and the Lucknow Super Giants camp. And his replacement in the World Test Championship final squad is none other than Mumbai Indians' very own Ishan Kishan. Now, Ishan Kishan, to those of you who don't know, is uncapped as far as Test cricket is concerned, but he's played like 14 one-dayers, 27 2020. So he's well accustomed to the Indian surroundings, but this is the first time he's picked for a Test tour. I think he was part of the Border Gavaskar series squad as well, but that was in home conditions. Now, the interesting part about this is the wicket-keeping situation in the Indian camp. Now, some of you might think one of them is injured, the another one is picked in place of him. What's there to talk about? Now, the thing to talk about here is, as I mentioned, the wicket-keeping scenario in India, in the Indian Test squad, in the Test team. I beg your pardon. The thing I'm quite curious and I want to talk about is Ishan Kishan really going to play in that Test match against Australia? It's a one-off Test match. Is he going to play? I'm not quite sure, because the current Indian wicketkeeper is KS Bharat, two others. He played all four Test matches, I beg your pardon, in the Border Gavaskar Trophy. He had some iffy moments with the gloves. He had semi-decent series with the bat. He didn't attract or wow anyone with his batting performances. Yes, he had a bit of cameos of 20s and 30s here and there. But none of those innings were eye-catching, be it with the glove, be it with the bat. So that begs the question, is Ishan Kishan really going to be India's wicketkeeper when it comes to facing the Australians in England? Now, this is all coming down to the fact that Rishabh Pant is injured, and he's been injured for quite some time now. It's been months since his freak accident and his injury, but replacing him is a big task. Now, Rishabh Pant, as we all know, is an aggressive, hard-hitting wicketkeeper batsman, comes lower down the order at number 4 or 5, scores some quick-fire runs. Usually when the top order doesn't perform, he bails them out of trouble with his counter-attacking style of play. Now, if India want that similar kind of innings from their wicketkeeper, it's a no-brainer that they should go with Ishan Kishan. Yes, Ishan Kishan's form in the IPL and leading up to the IPL has question marks of its own. But if India want to just tell Ishan Kishan that just go out there, give us a few quick fire 40 or 50 odd runs, and we'll take care of the rest, I think Ishan Kishan is your go-to man. But then, do you really want to throw a debutant in front of a pack of wolves? Because Australia is going to be a completely different side from what they were a couple of months back during the Border Gavaskar Trophy. They had injuries to the likes of Stark, Hazelwood. Cummins just played the first 2 Test matches before sadly returning home due to family reasons. But now, when it comes to the World Test Championship final, I think Australia will be picking their first choice fast bowling unit, which is Josh Hazelwood, Mitchell Stark, Pat Cummins, Nathan Lyon with the spinning option, and Cameron Green as the 5th bowling choice. So, do you really want to put Ishan Kishan on debut against all of these players? Now, if you want an X factor, someone who the opposition doesn't know about. And sure, go with Ishan Kishan. What's the worst that can happen? But then you cannot expect such counter-attacking Rishabh Pant kind of an innings from someone like Shikhar Bharat. Yes, he had a really good semi-counter-attacking kind of play in, I think, the second test match, which was at Delhi, if I'm not wrong. But can you expect him to do that on a consistent basis? Well, I'm not sure whether you can do that with him. But he's a really good option if you want someone reliable. Now, Ishan Kishan and Shikhar Bharat's wicket keeping, well, pick your choice. I think both of them are decent with the glove. Rishabh Pant's wicket keeping was beyond recognition. He had some iffy moments during his early career as well, but since then he's become one of India's best wicket keepers. Not only with the bat, but with the glove as well. But then, the reason why I'm skeptical about Ishan Kishan that is because of his first-class record. He's played 48 first-class matches and he scored 2,985 runs at an average of 38.7 with 600s. And according to Cricinfo's article, he recently played in the Ranji Trophy season. He played just 2 games and scored 180 at an average of 45. So his overall first-class record is I think average, above average to say the least. But his recent form in the Ranji Trophy has been quite good. But the reason why I bring up Ishan Kishan, whether he'll play or not, is the reason going back to KL Rahul, because yes, he's not in the best of forms. Yes, he's had his critics on the internet and in the media. But I felt like KL Rahul was selected as India's wicketkeeper, and I expected him to play in place of Shikhar Bharat. But if that's the reason, and they feel like Shikhar Bharat's not up to the mark, and that's why they've picked Kishan and they expect to play Kishan, I think that won't be the ideal choice, because throwing an uncapped player in front of the Australians in a final, let's be honest, it's a world like a ICC tournament final, and you don't want to play some inexperienced kid in a final. So even though I have slightly leaned towards picking Ishan Kishan in this match, I feel like it is quite evident that it will be Shikhar Bharat who will play in the World Test Championship final, because he has got experience. He's played against the Australians before. He's played 4 test matches. He's well accustomed to the Indian spinners as well, whilst keeping wickets. And I feel like he has proven himself to the Indian selectors that he deserves a second chance in the squad. Now, the reason why I am still not confident is because, yes, he has 4 matches of experience, but he's not proved himself much. Yes, I'm contradicting my points. You see the confusion we have when it comes to the Indian wicket-keeping situation. On one hand, I feel like, yes, he's already played 4 games. He should therefore play in the World Test Championship final as well. But on the other hand, I feel like, well, did he do enough to warrant a place? Now, Ishan Kishan is completely the opposite. Has he warranted at all when he's not played a single game of Test cricket in his life? I don't think so. So let's keep the confusion out of the way and go with Shikhar Bharat. Yeah, Shikhar Bharat as your wicketkeeper. And I feel like that's the way India would be thinking as well. I think Ishan Kishan is much more of a backup than the first choice wicketkeeper. Just to remind the listeners, the Indian squad for the World Test Championship final, and this is the updated squad. We have Rohit Sharma, Shubman Gill, Cheteshwar Pujara, Virat Kohli, returning Ajinkya Rahane, whom I expect to play in the number 5 slot in place of Shreyas Iyer, who is injured. Shikhar Bharat and Ishan Kishan, big debate. I'm still confused. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, or you can tweet at me as well. Ravichandran Ashwin, Ravindra Jadeja, Akshar Patel, India's lower order batsman / all-rounder situation. After that, you have Shardul Thakur, Mohammad Shami, Mohammad Siraj, Umesh Yadav, and Jaydev Unadkat. We have 3 players on standby. We have Mukesh Kumar on standby, Ruturaj Gaikwad, and Surya Kumar Yadav. That's a decent standby if you ask me. But yeah, it's a really good squad. And I feel like regardless of what the wicket-keeping situation is, I feel like India have a really good chance of winning this particular tournament for the first time in their history. And I won't be surprised if they win it. Yes, they have had their injury concerns. They are missing Pant. Now they're missing KL Rahul. Shreyas Iyer is out. Jasprit Bumrah is out. But those 4, keep them aside, they still have a really good squad. Look at the seam attack. Shami, Siraj, Umesh Yadav. The spin attack is one of the best in the world, if not the best in the world. And regardless of the wicketkeeper situation, which I personally feel would be Shikhar Bharat, but I think India have a really good chance of beating Australia. I think I said that in the episode when India first announced the squad, that I feel like India are the favorites to win this tournament. And I feel it is going to happen. Australia will be focused. I think Australia will be much focused on Ashes rather than the World Test Championship Final. Not saying that Australia will take that game easy. It's again a final. But I feel like India have the quality to beat the Aussies. So yeah, that's the wicket-keeping situation. I feel like the more you talk about it, the more complex you make. I think you should just stay away from the stats, figures and stuff like that. Just go with Shikhar Bharat. He has played 4 games for you previously. Kishan has not played a single game for you. His form is a little dicey. Yes, Shikhar Bharat has not played IPL cricket at all at the time of recording this podcast, but he has had Test cricket experience. He's got the exposure. He's with the squad. And I feel like just go with Shikhar Bharat and call it a day and focus on the rest of the game. That's my thought on the wicket-keeping situation. I have been really confused, but I'm slightly leaning towards Bharat now. As I mentioned, let me know your thoughts in the comments as well, and whether Ishan Kishan deserves a debut in a World Test Championship final.